Welcome to the Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share that passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with a Latina perspective. Welcome to Season 8, where we will talk all things corporate and higher education. I'm so excited to share these powerful stories. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Hola, today I'm talking with Viviana, a multi-faceted professional based in Los Angeles with experience in human resources, leadership, and tech. She has worked at various Fortune 500 companies and startups and is currently a director at a large entertainment company. In 2020, she created the Jefa Life community where she shares her career journey, career-related advice, and elevates other Latina stories. She is passionate about leadership, mentorship, and ensuring the next generation of Latinas have all the tools and resources they need to have successful careers. Please enjoy our conversation. Thank you so much for meeting with me. I'm really excited to get into your story. Today, I'm chatting with Viviana, and I get to hear all about the ups and downs of her journey as she has gone through and navigated higher education and the corporate space. But before I get too much into it, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, Karina. I'm super happy to be here. So thank you for asking me first and foremost. Hi, everyone. I'm Viviana Maldonado, and I'm a multifaceted professional based in Los Angeles, originally from the Midwest, like you, Karina. But I moved here to LA 9 years ago. I relocated with my job, and I've been here ever since. And currently, I am a director at a large entertainment company. So happy to be here.
And I'm so excited to be speaking with you. This is the first time that we're talking face to face, even though it's virtual. We connected through Instagram, social media, and have been messaging back and forth. I was really inspired by what you were posting and sharing. And so I'm really excited to be able to share your story this season. But I'd love to know what brought you to the space that you're at now. What was your journey like through your educational journey, I should say?
I've been thinking a lot about that because I am not a planner. I don't know about you, but I don't believe in the whole 5-year plan or 10-year plan. And I was thinking about it today about where I am right now and how of a full circle moment everything was, because I went to school a long time ago and I majored in English and in film studies. And obviously, back then, I had no idea what I was going to do. Absolutely none. And throughout the years, I'm mainly in the business world, right? At Fortune 500 companies, I've been at startups. And then now I'm in the entertainment capital of the world in Los Angeles. Once again, not planned. And I'm in the film and television industry. Full circle moment, didn't plan it at all. So I think the best thing is just to go with the flow. That's always been my mantra. And the universe will definitely put you where you're supposed to be.
That is really non-traditional. I think a lot of people,
Very.
a lot of people that I talk to are very much planners, and perhaps we're taught at such a young age to always be thinking about what's next. I know that every time I achieve something, I was asked, okay, great job. Now what? What are you going to do
What's
now?
next? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just wowed by that perspective. My life is so planned. I can't imagine going with the flow. Or granted, I know that some things you just have to go with the flow because
you
have to embrace the unexpected. But that's amazing that it has worked out for you in this way. What was your those stepping stones to get you to the next thing in your life?
That's an interesting question. I don't even know how to answer that.
Yeah, I guess because like things are so planned, especially like starting
Mm-hmm.
out at such a young age. You're in school, then you're in high school, then you graduate. So because you've kind of just like embraced what is happening, like what were those
Really
pivotal
have, yeah.
moments where it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna see what's next, whether that was like after high school or after your undergrad. Like how did you know to keep on moving and in which direction to go?
Yeah, I think one of the motivating factors for me is that I grew up in a small town, and the motivating factor was I need to get out, right? So I need to get out and go do something. I know I meant for more, and I don't mean that in a condescending way or anything like that, but it's just I knew that that wasn't for me, right? And but I didn't necessarily knew what meant more, what more meant. That's what I'm trying to say, what more meant. So every single step I kept thinking, all right, what is what is going to help me meet my goal, right? Of the right after graduating high school, it was leaving my hometown. And then I went to college. Right after that, I just focused on what was in front of me, graduating college. And I struggled, right? I really did. It took me a while. So I wasn't thinking about the future like a lot of people were thinking about, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. I was just thinking, I just need to get this done. I need to just graduate. Then once I graduated, okay, first full-time job, right? So it's one thing at a time. I can tell you a month ago, I didn't even know I was going to be working in the entertainment industry. And that was a month ago. I knew that I needed a change. I knew that I wanted something new, but I had no idea it was going to be in the entertainment industry when I applied to all these companies. So it's just one step at a time. That's how I've done it, and that has worked for me. But I also know that that may not work for everyone because maybe some people want more control. Maybe some people are not comfortable with the ambiguity. But for me, it's really just one step at a time, and things have always worked out for me. They really have.
I think there are probably many people that can relate to that mindset. I just think that we're so conditioned to program ourselves to know what is next. And I
That's
think
true.
in part, like I know that it was the influence of my parents and the adults around me when I was younger that were always like helping me think about what's next and not rest and take time to just listen to what I wanted. And I think we can learn from that type of mindset. And I think especially after the pandemic, we have been taking a step back to maybe assess and see the what we're valuing in life. And a lot of times like we've realized that like, oh man, I've just been going and going and going and I haven't really
Hmm.
asked myself what I want. And so
Yeah,
I think we can learn a lot from just releasing ourselves from that mentality of always having to achieve something, always having to seek out what's next. And
a
so,
100%.
yes, I appreciate the perspective that you're sharing.
No, I agree with that because I've always thought if I do think that way and I get so obsessed with a specific goal, right? Then what if what if I don't meet it? But what if I do? And then what's, like you said, what's next? Is it, but then there's something else I need to achieve and then something else. And I just want to be content, right? I just want to be okay with where I'm at. And it doesn't mean that I'm stagnant. It doesn't mean that I am settling. No, not at all. But right now, I'm at this point where I just really need to be grateful. I just really want to be grateful because I never planned to come to Los Angeles whatsoever. That was kind of fell on my lap. And then now I'm here, and then now I'm in the entertainment industry. So it's things that people dream of, right? Things that people strive for their entire lives. And here I am.
Yeah. So when the unexpected happens, how has the perspective of just going with the flow really helped you navigate something that needed to shift so quickly?
I think you said it earlier, or you said something similar about expecting the unexpected. That is one of my mantras as well. So I'm always saying that to people in any regard. Just expect the unexpected, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in your professional life. So when something like that happens, I just say, okay, it's happening. And really just focus on what the issue is or what's in front of me and then move forward. Yeah, I will never be that person that says I can't believe this happened to me. Never. I no.
Yeah, I like that perspective because a lot of times we internalize what is happening to us and we take it personally. And I know that even though I'm not necessarily in the corporate space, like I've never had a 9 to 5 job, and but many of my friends around me have, and some things, and my husband has a 9 to 5 job. And there are a few times where something happens and I see that um, they take it personally and they say like, oh, maybe it's something that I did. And I'm like, well, maybe it's the system, or it's like people worried about their bottom line, not necessarily something that you did. And I think back to when I was going to school and I was working so hard to achieve like perfect scores and to get the best grades and to have like the highest achievements, the highest honor mentions. And if I missed something, or if I didn't do something, or if I was passed over from someone else by someone else, like that, taking it personally, like it was something that I did and I'm just so wrong. Like it's so easy to blame yourself and to take it personally, when in reality, like the systems that are in place like are kind of just there. Like it really will help your mental health to think about things more logically, as opposed to internalizing the things that we can't really control because of the systems that are in place.
Yeah, it is very important to think about it holistically as well, that there are so many factors that come into play, right? So many factors in so many situations. So, for instance, if somebody doesn't get a promotion, it may not have been your fault. There's so much at play that you almost have to learn how to play the game, or you almost have to learn how the game is played, right? Whether you want to play it or not, you have to understand these are some of the factors that come into play, and it really doesn't have anything to do with you.
Hmm. That brings me to my next question. I know that there have been a lot of shifts and pivots, especially in the past few years, in the tech space, in the corporate space. I've seen a lot of people that I know of get laid off,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really shocking to some
Very,
people.
yeah.
And I think I resonated with something that you posted on social media about how you're navigating the same space. So I would love to know how you navigated when you had to make a pivot that was unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, so my layoff story is very unconventional. And I want to say that because I actually had a job lined up the already, right? So I was ready to resign and then I was laid off that day. So I understand that that is not the norm. So it was a very interesting thing to navigate because I wasn't expecting to get laid off. So I was laid off and it was still shocking, but at the same time, I already had accepted a job offer. So that was a really good thing for me, whereas some of my colleagues and peers did not have that. So I also had to recognize that aspect of it. But at the same time, I was really grateful and proud of myself that I had noticed the signs of something not being right? I had noticed the signs, I was intuitive, and that's when I said, I need to look for something different. And it just all ended up coming together in a perfect way. So it's very unconventional. You don't hear about that, right? That people get laid off and then they already have a job lined up. And it was the same day. I was supposed to resign that day, and I was laid off at 7 a.m. So it was new to me, never been laid off before.
So if people are um, caught in that unexpected. I know that you said you are already preparing, but you did
Yeah.
mention that you were already feeling some things and
Yes.
noticing some signs, which I think a lot of people ignore because they're like, "Oh, well,
Hmm.
no, maybe it's just me. Um, I just need to keep working. Like it's not going to happen to me."
Yeah, good point.
But what would you advise? Like if they are finding themselves in a layoff unexpectedly.
Yeah. So once again, expect the unexpected. Always expect it. I know that's not a good way to think, but use that to fuel you, right? So for instance, if you were to be laid off tomorrow, do you have a network lined up? Who would you call? Who would you be able to call? And not just for assistance helping finding a job, but just anything. I remember when I thought I was going to be laid off last year, I called a couple of people in my network that were laid off, and I was asking them about the process, about unemployment. So it had nothing to do with finding a job, but who is your network, right? Also, make sure that your resume is ready to go. Um, Also, go in and try to find or go on LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever you like to go search for jobs and already have an idea of what's out there. But I think that's something that everyone should be doing periodically, even if you're not applying for a job. Just go out there and look to see what's out there. And then also internally at your company, open your eyes, right? Don't be blind to what's happening. Are they talking about budget cuts? Are they not replacing people? So when somebody leaves, they're not backfilling that person, right? Those are telltale signs of something's not going on or something's wrong, right? Something weird is going on. So I really looked at all of that. And then also just my intuition, just the feeling of something's not right. Right. Something is not right. I can't put my finger on it. I obviously don't know if there are going to be layoffs or not, but it is not right for me. And this is what I'm going to do as an act of self preservation. So I think those are the things that you can do. It's really never get in that situation and think, I can't believe this happened to me. Those days are over. Those days are over.
Yeah, I think of all of the recent layoffs that we've had this year and last year,
Hmm.
and they have sent almost like waves in the job industry, and just from the people that I am friends with,
Yeah.
it's that it is that shocking experience. But I, hmm, even though people might be caught off guard, what would you tell them if they haven't prepared, if they are shocked?
Hmm.
What could next steps be for them to kind of get them back grounded enough to
Yeah.
continue?
So give yourself time to grieve, whatever that means for you. Whatever that means, whether you're angry, whether you're resentful, whatever it means, right? It's going to be different for everyone. But allow yourself to do that and to feel that way and then leave it behind. And I know there will be waves, but really you have to be in a good mental space to go out there and decide what you want to do next because right now, especially right now, it's very tough. Very, very tough. So I received multiple and multiple rejections. So I almost gave up. I almost gave up saying, this is too much. I just want to take a break. And I actually did. I started applying in January and then I took a break for a couple months and then I started again. So you have to be in a really good mental space, positive space. So if you're still resentful and you're still angry about your situation and shocked, it's not going to be conducive to try to find a job and trying to get to where you need to be next. So give yourself that time and then really just kind of make a list of, once again, reaching out to your network. Are you active on LinkedIn? Is there anything that you can do there? Will you create content? And content creation is a big thing right now. It's really popular. How can you create content in a way that is going to um, kind of take you to the next level, whether you're creating content on TikTok, creating content on LinkedIn. That's almost the new resume in a way. I really do think so. So if somebody is interested in creating content, that's a big opportunity right now, right? I know a lot of people have been recording or they've been talking about their experiences, whether they're laid off or applying for jobs. So taking people on that journey, you never know who's watching.
Exactly. I mean, that's how I
Yeah.
connected with you. You shared
Mm-hmm.
your story on Instagram, and I started following you and just resonated with what the content that you were putting out there. So, when did you start thinking about social media as your resume or thinking how you can leverage it, even though you're in a corporate setting?
Well, I think since 2020, there has been an influx of content creators, and just a lot of creativity out there in many different forms, right? Some people use TikTok, some people use Instagram, some people use LinkedIn. Even though I do create career related content, I am not a huge LinkedIn fan. I'm trying to lean into it a little bit more, but I just love Instagram and TikTok, which is weird because LinkedIn is all about careers, right? So I know I've been doing it for a while, but I've noticed that there is a trend where people are going on social media and talking about a variety of things, whatever interests them. And like I just said, you never know who's watching. So I think that we're really moving into that kind of space where content creation can help you get a job. It really can by either by connecting with people, somebody watches something, somebody's interested in something, or you by being a consumer of content may also be may also be introduced to something that maybe you didn't know existed, right? Just a different world out there. So I think content and social media is really important right now in connecting with anyone.
Yes, because it expands your network in a
It
way
does.
that is unconventional, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, I really am not on LinkedIn all that much. I'm more on the other social media platforms and I have met so many different people. I've gone to so many different events and I feel that my career has been enriched by everything that I'm learning and none of it had anything to do with LinkedIn. But also, I recognize that LinkedIn is extremely valuable and has been valuable for a lot of people. So I know it's a great platform. It's just not one that I'm super comfortable with at this time.
Same. I have been trying to figure out LinkedIn or how I want to show up on LinkedIn the past like
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 months. And it's tricky, especially if I come
Same.
from like in the Instagram world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you remember wanting to be when you grew up, when you were a kid?
I don't remember, but I think it was either teacher or doctor. My aunt was a doctor. So she was a doctor. My uncle was a teacher. And that was kind of all. I don't know. In my little world, that was everything, right? It's like teacher or doctor. But I don't remember too much. I just know that there are a couple of school projects that I did where I said I wanted to be I want to be a teacher. But I do remember in high school I wanted to be a social worker. So that I do remember that. I was a little older. I had a social worker in high school and I just loved the way that she treated my family and me. And I just remember thinking, I want to make someone feel the way that she makes me feel. And I really value her. And also, I just loved everything about her and her job. So that's something I wanted to do.
And I ask this because I'm always so interested in the what's the word? like how it has presented in your life now. So you
Yeah.
say that you're a teacher and that there was this one person that really made you feel valued. And
Hmm.
I see you doing that now. And so it might not look it might not be the job title of teacher, but the way that you show up on social media, like you are wanting to help and educate others in the area that you're an expert in
Hmm.
or knowledgeable
Yeah,
in. And so
that's a great point.
I always like to see the line of like connection, even though it might not look like it from the outside.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think that there's always a connection, right? If we really go back and think about it, there always is. And I agree because right now I'm in a human resource sort of like it is a human resources role. It's not under the human resources department, but typically at other companies it is. And at another job I was at another company, it was similar, where I would always joke and say I'm the social worker of this company because it just felt like that. And also what my department did, it really was like we were the social workers. So I do think it presents itself and it has presented itself.
So throughout your education or even your work life, has there you mentioned that you grew up in a small town. Is there a time that you remember, or do you remember navigating through like maybe microaggressions or biased thinking, and how did you navigate that?
Mm, there probably was a lot back then, but I didn't think about it that way. You know, I grew up in the 90s. I was a teen. I was just living life. I wasn't necessarily sitting there thinking about, I think that was a microaggression or I think I have imposter syndrome, right? A lot of those terms, not that they're new by any means, but it's not something that I personally used growing up, right? So I just don't remember ever feeling that way. I was just a normal teen growing up in Nebraska. And of course, you had your kids that were mean, you know, your bullies. And sometimes I probably was mean as well. I don't know. I'm just saying, I just feel like I had a very normal childhood and I didn't really think about those things, or at least they didn't affect me. I should say that. They probably existed, but I just didn't even let them phase me.
Yes, I asked that question because I too was in a similar position. I grew up in a predominantly white space and
Hmm.
I didn't realize the things that may have been said or made me feel some sort of way
Exactly.
were what they were until I was an adult. And
Exactly.
then my eyes were opened and I was like, wow, I've been experiencing this my whole life and I've just kind of like ignored it or just kept moving on. It wasn't that big of a deal. And now,
Hmm.
as I am trying to gain language around it and educate my kids, like it's surprising to me. Well, surprising, but also I'm doing it intentionally. Um, but that they have the language at such a young age to be able to call out things that make them feel uncomfortable, or if someone says something they'll be like, you know what, that was not right. Like they called out something and they said this to me because of who I am as a Latina, and that's not
Hmm.
cool. And so I just wonder, like, wow, I it's heavy either way whenever you realize that it has happened. But I it's heavy for me because I'm processing everything that may have happened when I was younger, and also
Yeah,
processing my kids processing what's happening to them currently.
to them.
And it can be overwhelming. When did you kind of realize things that had been said to you or actions that had been taken that you're just like, oh, that maybe that wasn't cool, or now I can put a name to that? Do you remember like a specific time where you were just like, oh, that's what that is?
I actually think it's been a lot more recent than anything ever since moving to California. Yeah, that was huge. That was monumental because growing up in Nebraska, I was just another kid. right? Of course, I knew it was Latina, and I've always been very proud of it, but I never let that hold me back whatsoever, right? And I was proud of everything. I was proud of where I came from, my family. Then when moving to California and really being around so many Latinos, and also seeing that seeing and recognizing that not everyone had the same upbringing as me. Some people had more advantages, some people had less advantages, right? I was able to learn a lot about my culture in a way that I had never been able to do before because of where I was growing up. So it really has been in the last decade. There has just been moments of illuminating little um, time, thinking, oh, wow, I had never thought about it that way. And it really has been last 10 years, these last 10 years.
And I think social media has like propelled the conversation as well because we're able to see and hear from different perspectives and lived
True.
experiences. And so even though like I grew up in a little town in Illinois and I connect with someone in LA, I'm just like, I can connect with you in this way, but also see how our lives have been different and affected differently
Different.
based on where we
Yes.
are in the US. Um,
Oh yeah. That's been a blessing. And that's something that I'm really grateful for because a lot of people, for instance, a lot of my friends have never left California, have never moved out of California, so they have a specific perspective. Or they may say, "Oh, I didn't even know that there were Latinos in the Midwest or in Nebraska," and I'm just really grateful for that experience that I've had both. Right, and I also lived in Texas, in South Texas, for a while, so I really have that perspective where I'm able to understand both sides.
yeah, that's I'm hoping that the more conversations that we have, the more we're able to um be empathetic towards how other people have experienced their Latinidad.
Yes, and learn about the histories as well, right? Because I was one of those people that I didn't really understand why, if you have Mexican parents, how do you not know Spanish? Right? I didn't know that because in my world, we all had Mexican parents, immigrant parents, and we knew Spanish, right? I don't think I knew anyone that didn't know Spanish. But then I came to California and it's completely different. And so it's really understanding the history behind it and why certain things are the way they are. And like you said, having that empathy.
Yeah,
But if you're not exposed to it, how was I supposed to know?
exactly. Through the corporate space, have you been part of ERGs that like Latinx or Latina ERGs that have helped you?
Yeah, when I was working at the railroad, what was it, maybe 10 years ago? I started working there about 10 years ago. And I worked there for, no, maybe 12 years ago. I worked there for about 10 years. And I was a part of the Latino ERG and also the women's ERG. And I was on committees, planned conferences. I was co-chair a couple years. So I was very involved. And that really helped me meet people from across the organization, also build relationships. So it was very enriching and a lot of fun too to be a part of something like that.
Have, as you've been through different corporate settings over the last years, decades, have you seen a shift in diversity?
I think it depends. It really does depend because right now I'm in California. So it's so different here, right? Because when I was working at the railroad, I feel that my team, my leaders, the directors, some of the people in leadership looked just like me. But I was in California. If I was in Nebraska, it would be completely different. And we're talking about the same company, right? Because that company was headquartered in Nebraska, but my unit was in California. So it really just depends because I was here in LA. My my experience was so different, right? I was grateful and super happy that I did have a BIPOC leader, BIPOC peers, but that had never happened before, right? So I do think that there is a shift. Definitely, the companies are trying, but it's really hard to say because I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah, and I know that there has been a huge boom in talking about DEI work, and especially in the past 3 plus years. I mean, I feel like I heard more about it in the past 3 to 6 years time frame. Um, and I think, and I mean, it's in part of social media, making me more aware of the boom or the necessity in DEI work. And I I'll ask you, like, is have you seen a benefit in the companies that you're working in at prioritizing that or not prioritizing that? Like, what has been your experience with DEI? I think it's right now it's like a buzz term, and everyone is trying to, or like corporations are trying to make sure that they're checking that box. But what has been your
Yeah,
experience?
I think it's twofold. So it really, once again, it really depends, right? At some corporations, I see it as a more of a extracurricular, right? It's something apart from what we do. So this is what we do. This is our job. And then we've got this D&I thing that we have to deal with, right? And then you have all of the people that are part of the ERGs, part of the diversity councils that are all almost doing double work, right? And I do think that that happens at a lot of companies. And then there are some companies where it really is just a part of your everyday life. Everything you do is looked at through the lens of diversity and inclusion. And it doesn't seem like it's something separate and apart. It doesn't seem like the leaders look at it as fluff or an extracurricular activity. And that's what I like the most, right? So I do think that it varies by company. I don't think that there's a standard. And I commend companies that really bake it into their processes. Because I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that you mentioned that you have transitioned into a new position.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I know that you're not a planner, but are there any big like goals that you're working towards in either your personal life or your corporate life?
So right now, like I said, I'm just super content where I'm at. I am loving it. I'm loving learning so much about the entertainment industry, something that I am new to. So right now I'm taking it all in. And then I'm going to give myself some time and then look at what I want to do next, whether it's a certificate. So, for instance, I told you I was in HR. HR has different certificates or certifications. And so that's one of the goals is just to see which one fits me, right? And which one can help my career. And then also personal. This might sound silly, but I don't have a car. I haven't had a car in a long time. So I'm just looking forward to buying a car. That's going to be a huge deal for me. I've been carless for a long time, mainly because I used to drive a company car. So I didn't have to. But at the same time, I didn't want the expenses. I just didn't want to own a car. I thought it was kind of cool. Like, yeah, I don't own a car in LA. So that's something I have to do. And then, yeah, just kind of take it from there. I also want to get different hobbies because this is kind of life changing where it's going to allow me to live in a different way where I'm not going to work remotely anymore. It's a hybrid job. So every time I go through a transition, I have to really look at everything holistically and think, okay, how do I want to live my life now? Right? With my prior job, because I was remotely, I was traveling a lot. I would go to Nebraska and spend 2 to 3 months there at a time. So I can't do that anymore. So I have to think, okay, now I'm more LA based. So what do I want my life to look like? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's kind of like an exciting place to be where you
Yeah,
kind of
it
just
is.
have it open and you're
Totally. It really is because, like I said, I'm not a 5 to 10 year plan kind of person because if I was, I would not be sitting here in front of you. I would not be living in Los Angeles. I would not be working in the entertainment industry because that was never part of my plan, right? That was never part of whatever. It wasn't even part of my, I don't even know. I just didn't even think about it. It was just not a place that I ever wanted to be in. I remember 10 years ago when I was thinking about moving and relocating with the company, I remember telling a friend, I will go anywhere. Actually, I wanted to go to Chicago, but I want to go, I'll go anywhere except for California. That's the one place where I just want to stay far away from because I don't know anything about it. I don't like the traffic. It's expensive and so many other things. Right. And it was just me being ignorant, not knowing. And then look, I ended up moving. So that's why I don't believe in plans. And it was exactly what I needed.
yeah. So if there's one thing that you can say that you enjoy about living in California, what would that be?
The cultural diversity.
Mm.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's something that I think at least me who lives in the Midwest, like
Hmm.
we don't there's this closed-mindedness about living on either coast.
Oh, yeah, I know. Every time I go home, people always say, are you sure you don't want to come back? Please just come back. It's so expensive.
I know. I think there's something about people who grew up in and around Chicago land area that they're just like, nope, Chicago's the best, and I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah. And
Um,
Chicago is great. It really, really is. That's where I wanted to go actually 10 years ago. I had already gone to visit, well, because I'm from the Midwest, I had been there many times, but I had gone specifically to scope things out and to walk around and think, okay, this is where I'm going to be. And then that job never opened up, and it was the LA job that opened up. And I had already made the commitment to apply, and I had already made the commitment that I wanted to be part of this department. So that's how I ended up in LA, and my Chicago dreams were squashed.
yes, well, maybe one day in the future.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I too visited California, the Long Beach area for the first time a few years
Hmm.
ago. This was before the pandemic, and
Okay.
was like I met so many amazing people there, and I keep telling myself, "Oh, I want to go back. I want to go back to at least just visit because I've made so
Yeah.
many great connections in the West Coast area, like all throughout California and even New York. Like I've made a lot of good connections on either coast, and I'm over here in the middle. Like, I want to go see my friends in person, not just virtually. Um, so I think travel has been really beneficial for me to be able to get out and see and experience different ways of living, like in
Yes.
different climates in different regions. So
Hmm.
since traveling for work and throughout your adult life, what have you experienced in, like, is there anything that you would be like, oh, I think more people should be traveling for, either whether it's for work or personal?
Yes. So some people may not be comfortable with this, but I'm a firm believer that everyone should at least travel by themselves once. Have just that one epic trip solo, wherever you want to go. But it's so life changing. In 2015, I went to Bangkok, well, Thailand. I went to Thailand by myself for an entire week without knowing anyone, without knowing the language, without knowing anything about it. And it was, to this day, one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. It was so great. It was so much fun. It taught me about myself. It really challenged me. it was amazing. I just remember returning and thinking that I could conquer anything.
I love that. And I think people are becoming more open to solo traveling, especially in the past few years, or now that travel is a thing again after the pandemic. Um, but this has been an amazing conversation. What encouragement or advice, and I mean, you shared a lot of wisdom already, but what advice would you have for the next generation, especially those either navigating a layoff or experiencing the fear of being laid off in their job?
So always be one step ahead, right? Always be prepared. Always know, okay, expect the unexpected. What am I going to do if this happened to me? Right. And I'm not talking about living in fear, because I think some people misinterpret what I say and they say, well, we can't be living in fear every day. It's not about that. But it's really just about knowing anything can happen, and am I going to be prepared? Right. What can I do now for future me? Right. And I keep telling myself, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Viv, in the past, for doing everything that you did, for powering through, for applying for jobs when you did not want to apply, right? When you felt defeated. Thank you for everything you did, because you really set me up for success. So it's expect the unexpected and be prepared.
So good. If people want to connect with you, and I hope they do, because I love the content that you share on social media, where can they connect with you?
So I've got a couple of Instagrams. You can connect with me on my personal Instagram, which is Vivarazzi, and the Jefa Life. So it's at the Jefa Life. Also TikTok at the Jefa Life, and LinkedIn using my name, so Viviana Maldonado. And I'll give you those links as well.
I know we didn't talk too much about the Jefa Life, but do you want to share a little bit about that brand that you're building?
Yeah, so in 2020, I created the Jefa Life, and it is a career related blog slash community slash Instagram. I've been posting on a variety of platforms where I will talk about my career journey, but also give different types of career related advice and tips. And at this moment, I'm still thinking about where I'm going to go with that, whether I want to rebrand or whether I want to turn it into a newsletter. I did take a break, mainly because I was trying to navigate my career in tech, right? I was new to the tech world, and I did that for a couple years. So I did take a break, but now that I'm a little bit more settled, I'm going to revisit my brand and revisit that community. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, awesome. Yes, I know that's how I connected with you as well, and I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the the content that you share on the Jefa Life.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time and everything that you shared, and I'm glad that we were able to connect off of Instagram.
Yes, it was so nice to finally meet you. I know we've been connected for a while.
Yes.
So thank you so much once again for asking me. This was fun.
Yes, and hopefully I'll get to meet you in person soon.
Anytime you're in LA, you better call me.
Sounds good. All right, we'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
What a great conversation. I'm so grateful for Viviana's time and advice shared during this episode. Okay, amigos, thank you so much for listening. There'll be a new episode every Tuesday, so after you listen, feel free to take a screenshot to post on Instagram and tag at Elevating La Cultura, or send me a DM. You can also comment on our YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So leave a review on Apple Podcasts so we can get more ears listening to these stories and we can continue elevating La Cultura. And if you haven't already, check out the website elevatinglacultura.com to see what in-person events I've got going on for you. And the doors are open for the Showing Up Latina in Business Mentorship Program. I opened the doors back in August for the first cohort, and the growth from the jefas in the program has been amazing. The program is designed exclusively for Latina business owners and leaders. We celebrate our wins together, we pour into each other by leveraging our advice and networks, and we keep each other accountable. Many of us are in this time of transition or pivoting and feel like we're on the cusp of something that's about to pop off in our business. And if you're a solo entrepreneur, you know the struggle of doing all the things all the time and trying to keep up with all the new social media trends. It can be overwhelming for sure, and it's getting in the way of faster growth. If you've been thinking it would be great to have an accountability person or someone to bounce ideas off of and brainstorm next steps with, I'm your person. Visit elevatinglacultura.com/mentorship to apply and schedule a quick call with me. Let's get into 2024 on the right foot. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week. Bye.